All right, guys. So we're gonna do our recap of today's trades. I took a few days off. Yesterday I took off, and the day before, and the day before that day, I was red on those days. I was red. Uh, Not a big amount, but I was still red. So I decided to take off a day and kind of get my mind right, and just kind of recenter and see and readjust my trading for the month of July. So our first trade of the day was on LGN. We took this on, let's see, we'll pull up the 5-minute chart, and here we can see that it was at $4 and it hit a high of 667, and then it pulled back. This was an excellent, very excellent, pretty 5-minute pullback. However, I did not take the trade. That was one of my rules, that okay, well, I'm gonna sit tight out of the gates and see what's moving, because 2 days that I was red, I had taken trades pre-market and I wasn't sizing accordingly, and they ended up being in losses, unnecessary losses, really. So we'll jump into the 1-minute chart and we'll see where we got in. So on this one, so it hit a high of 748.42, pulled back, then a high of 750. It pulled back. I bought this dip down to 7 and sold up here around 710. Not a little small profit, not much, but the real nice entry on this trade would have been here on for a gap and go setup. If you were watching this pre-market, watching it from $4, hit a high of 667, and then it pulls back here. So this is a bull flag. So 650 would have been your entry. And I was watching 650, but I hesitated. I was like, no, I'm gonna wait. There was a seller there at 650. As soon as the market opened, that seller got taken out real fast. He got bought up and it just squeezed up high. It hit a high of, what was this, 742 before it pulled back here, and then it tested that high again. That would have been a very nice entry if I would have been a little bit more confident in the trade. I hesitated, which is good. I told myself that I was not gonna trade out of the gates, just kind of sit tight and watch to see what kind of momentum we have, see if it's clean action. It was pretty clean, so that's always a good thing. Let's see. So that's QLGN. Our next stock that we traded was LGHL. I'm pretty disappointed on the way I traded this one. So this one, it was a setup. We'll look at the 5-minute chart. The daily chart. We can see this is a recent IPO stock that recently started trading. The high was 450. So a setup is a break of that high. That's kind of what we were watching, but it was not as clean. It almost hit that 450 level, but it did not get that far. This is a good one to keep an eye on for continuation tomorrow or the next few days. So we'll jump into the 1-minute chart and we'll see what we took, what kind of trades we took, and why we took the trade. Okay, so this is what I was looking at in the morning. This right here, this is what I was seeing. Okay, so I was here. Okay, so we saw a seller at 275, and it was a 15,000 share seller at 275. So I was like, okay, well, as soon as this seller gets bought up, I'm gonna jump in here for a squeeze higher. We have potential to hit a high of at least 305. So from 275 up to 305, 290 potentially. So I jumped in. I jumped in a little bit too soon. The seller did not get taken out, so the stock failed and it hit a low. I ended up stopping out here at 260, so I got in at 272 and I saw 260. There was a lot of selling going on at 260, and I knew if 260 did not hold, this stock was gonna continue going lower, and it did. I mean, it hit a low of 245, 246. So from 72 down to 46, that would have been a pretty nice loss. So I just decided to cut my losses there, which is not a bad thing. And of course, this stock, it did go higher. The seller did get bought up there at 75, and this thing made a nice move. It hit a high of 290, halted going up. That was my original target, 290. So the reason it was 290 was because this right here is a, I guess, a pivot point here. 288, and it halted at 290, so pretty close. And then the next level was at 3. My next level that my target would have been around 305. However, whenever it resumed from the halt, it resumed higher. It resumed up here at 341, and it squeezed up to 375, halted. And on this halt, it was interesting because it opened higher up at 389, but it flushed. It came down, and it halted going down. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. But something was telling me that it was going to do that just because the way that it halted. You had all the explosive volume out of nowhere. So I jumped in here out of the halt for a bounce. So it halted at 347 going down. I jumped in on the resumption, resumed at 365, and I jumped in around 370, sold around 382 for a move higher. I sold too soon, but it's okay. I'll take the profit. Hit high at 410. I was just trying to build up my profit cushion for the day, for the month. And then here, so I hit this 410, and then it failed, came all the way down. It flushed really hard down to 344. It almost halted going down. I jumped in on that false halt going down around 349, 350, sold up here around 360, and then it continued to go higher. Again, I keep selling too soon, but it's okay. Just building up the profit, and I'm trading with small share size, so it's really not that beneficial to sell half and sell the other half. Here, what I could have done was on this bounce, I captured this bounce very nicely down here at the bottom. But again, I trade the level 2. Level 2 is telling me, okay, Bell, because it was pretty choppy. So I got in at 350. It hit a high of 360, 65, 70, and I was putting orders to sell up here, but it was just bouncing around, bouncing all over the place. So I was like, well, this thing is not very clean. A big seller might drop in, and boom, this floor 345 is taken out, and it comes all the way down here, halts going down. So that's the reason that I took the profit where I did. And of course, it did continue to go higher from 340 up to 410. It would have been a nice trade, but that's not the way that I traded it. It's one thing that I'm trying to integrate into my trading strategy, but for now, that's the way I trade. All right, guys, that was it for today. Those were the only trades that were taken. Overall, pretty clean day. We know that the gap and go setup is working, so that is one thing to keep in mind for possibly tomorrow. All right, guys, any questions, just let me know. Thank you.